everyone. Welcome to the review of Ready to Love Season 9, Episode 10, The Getaway Part 2. So basically, this episode started with what's her name being evicted now? Can't even remember her name. The lady, the blonde lady. So she got evicted, and Jessica wasn't evicted. Now, here's the thing: Jessica felt some type of way about the word combative being used in describing her. So they left the grounds where they had the eviction and they went indoors, and everyone was touching base. It was funny that Chris was checking on Marie. That was weird, but I liked how Janelle stepped in and said, how about, who's checking on Jessica? Like, but Jessica decided not to speak at that time because she was really upset. And I really, really admire that. Because when you're emotional, when you're in that state, you tend to be passionate, and it may rub people off the wrong way. I liked how she was thinking about just taking care of herself, understanding how she was feeling. But spoke up for her, and I kind of appreciated that. I'm not a huge Janelle fan, but I liked how Janelle tried to step in, and they tried to get the person who said the word combative during the men's deliberation to admit to it. And Oga Chris, Chris refused to step up. Oh, you know, Mario walked away because he felt everyone was saying, "No, it's not me." The guys are fewer now, so it's not me, it's not me. And then if he says it's not me, Chris is gonna be left. But unfortunately, Chris couldn't even step up to the plate and even admit to it. I don't think Chris believed in his head, or he remembered that he used the word combative. But yeah, there we go. Now, during the confessionals, right? Kat made a statement and said, "Well, if that's your experience with somebody and they use the words combative described, they use the word combative to describe you, yeah, then that's what it is. That's who you are. You need to change your attitude." Now, here's the thing: I really like Kat, but I didn't agree with her on that one. Now, first of all, she did not understand what kind of conversations that we had between Chris and Jessica. So it may be that Chris perceived Jessica to be combative, but it may not necessarily be the case. If it so happened that Jessica wasn't combative, it's not fair to Jessica that she's been painted in that light. So, in that regard, regardless of a person's experience with some other person, right, and describing them in a way that may not be accurate, it's too hasty to just conclude based on somebody's perception of another person to say, yeah, that's how you are, then you should change your attitude. It may not necessarily be accurate, which is why I really, really disagree with Kat as much as I like Kat. So at some point they went fishing, and I think it was a couple of the guys and a couple of the ladies, except Janelle. Janelle wasn't there. Now Quentin caught a small goldfish, and I think Lee was trying to help take the goldfish off of the hook, the fishing line, and Janelle popped up from nowhere because when there's a female around Quentin, or when there's Quentin around the female, she just shows up to claim her territory. Even though it's not even what it seemed, it was just innocent fishing. But she was like, "Hey," and all of that. And Quentin was like, "Yay," And then Lee, of course, during her confessional, just didn't appreciate it. She just felt it was a little bit excessive. Which I kind of agree. It just looks as though um you can check on your man or whatever, but if you make it very obvious that it's, every time there's females around, you're beginning to look insecure at that point, you know so at some point Chris came up to Lee, handed her a gift. He got her some slippers, and that really impressed Lee, which is fine. It kind of made your connection a little bit stronger and all of that. And then at some point again, Marie checked in on Jessica. Now, here's the thing. I know Mario was the bone carrier in the sense that he had to be the one to to deliver what was deliberated in the men's lounge, right? And the whole thing happened where everybody was where Jessica was upset about the word combative, and where they had to all address the issue. So Mario was feeling uncomfortable at that point. So I think Mario was trying to address his own emotions, being that he was the one who delivered the news. So unfortunately, he didn't put Jessica aside immediately afterwards to check in on her, but eventually the guys had to speak to him to do that, which I felt a little bit concerned about, given that Jessica was his connection. I get that he was, probably unhappy as well as to how everything panned out when he passed on the message. But then Jessica was a strong connection. So he was looking after himself, but I thought he should have checked on Jessica a little bit earlier. A little bit earlier, and for the fact that the guys had to compel him to do it, yeah, that didn't look too good to me. So different people went on a couple of dates, Janelle and Quentin, and some other people. But I'm gonna fast forward to the ladies' lounge deliberation, and I'll fast forward to where they began to talk about their least least strongest connections. So Jessica, of course, for her least connection, she chose Chris, and she was explaining the reasons why Chris was, at the bottom. And I feel that the ladies who had connections with Chris, like Lee and Kat, I think they felt the need to defend Chris, but sadly, Chris denied it to them, and they felt the need to speak up and say, "Oh, Chris said he didn't say it. Chris said he didn't say it." Again, this is a situation where it's, oh, this is the person I'm with, and this is what they say, and I can only trust what they say, which is very unfortunate. Just defending someone blindly, given that you don't know the true circumstance. Yeah, it's a little bit challenging. And I think Jessica really, really handled herself well, because the way some of the ladies were in blind defense of Chris, it could have been a trigger for Jessica, because Jessica understood without even being there firsthand in the men's lounge. Jessica knew it was Chris based on the conversations they've had, because Chris has used that word to describe his ex. So Jessica knew in her heart of hearts that that was Chris, because she, amongst the other men, she's had good connections. She's never had conflict with those men. Chris is the only man she's had conflict with. Jessica had a strong case. Unfortunately, I don't think, I feel like the ladies, Kat especially, and even Lee, Kat and Lee, seem like they're friends, whereas Janelle and Jessica seem like they're friends. It looks as though Jessica being Janelle's friend, and Janelle being a little bit in quote mean girl, like they seem to be calling Janelle. I feel like they've grouped Jessica in that category. So it's not making them objective in knowing Jessica as a person just because she's friends with Janelle, which is really unfortunate, because I feel Jessica is a very different person from Janelle. She just happens to be Janelle's friend. Now, Aries was quick to say, Mari, who delivered the news on behalf of the guys, used the word. Um, I just felt that was a little bit, he's delivering the news from the lounge, from the men's lounge. So, I mean, I can get what she's saying, but at the same time, yeah, I just feel I feel the ladies were I feel they were a little bit I think they were a little bit too defensive, given that they weren't in the men's lounge. But I feel that Jessica, knowing Chris, had more of a stance, because she knew the conversations they had had in private. But yeah, I feel the ladies were really quick to blindly defend Chris in the lounge. So at some point, Jessica said, "A coward will allow another man to take the fall for something that you said," and and then she just said, "Unfortunately, He can't buy me anything. So Lee took that as shade against her because Chris bought her some slippers. And, she spoke up and said, what do you mean? Are you shading me? And Jessica really handled that well. Jessica turned to her and said, no, it's not you. There were so many occasions. I feel like if it were Janelle in Jessica's shoes, during that deliberation, it would have gone south. I find Jessica really, really handling herself very well. Long story short, they chose Mario and Chris as the bottom two, and Jessica had to meet with Chris to deliver the message, whatever the outcome was, and Aris had to meet with Mario to deliver the outcome. Aris told Mario that he was still ready to love, but then with Jessica and Chris, I think I think Chris lost it. Jessica was very controlled. She delivered the news, but Chris felt some type of way, and it just went south. So Chris didn't like the outcome, and he went defensive. Was like, I didn't call you combative, um, and that whatever news Mari delivered was on Mari. He was denying. Brothers and sisters, Chris was denying, and Chris lost his mind. He was like, "You feel a way about me." Blah blah blah, and he began using the F-bomb left, right, center. I really liked how Jessica was calm, and even during the confessionals, Jessica said Chris has lost his mind, and if he wants to make a fool of himself, yeah, let him make a fool of himself. Jessica was really controlled. I found that really, really, really impressive. I don't know if I would have been that controlled. Chris was very disrespectful. He was just spitting fire. And then to top it, he literally said, "You are combative. You're a mean girl. You and Janelle are mean girls." Oh my days. But if you look at it, right? I mean, if it were Janelle sitting in front of Chris and he said mean girl, I probably wouldn't even argue, to be honest with you. But Jessica has never been that person. The way Janelle has, reacted, or when Janelle had the disagreement with Kat, that reaction wasn't very good when they were having a discussion. Yeah, in part one of the getaway, and then he says, "You and Janelle, you're mean girls." It was Chris surprised me. I didn't see that coming. But yeah, so Chris is out of the game. Well, that's it for now. I hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Let me know your thoughts, and I feel like in this episode I can actually learn a lot from Jessica. I like that emotional intelligence. Jessica showed really strong emotional intelligence. Chris really showed the opposite. Considering that, he actually made that statement, or he used that word and he lied about it and everything. But yeah.